How to make your romance characters feel real and relatable. It's about understanding what they believe, not just who they are. And in this video, I'll share the one question that changes everything. Just in case you are new around these here parts, my name is Dana. I'm a USA Today bestselling author. I'm a developmental editor, and I am the chief storyteller at Danger Tales. I help romance and fantasy authors write addictive novels, and these are the novels that your readers cannot help but to gobble up and tell their reading friends and build profitable publishing careers. Before I start this week's newsletter, y'all, I have to tell you, this is a chatty video. We are back for another newsletter read. We used to call these our steamy side hustle editions, but this is just what went out in our newsletter. And I add in a little bit of my commentary, and y'all, you get the jokes for free. Okay? They do get a little corny. Just bear with me. Okay? We are just doing this thing. And I'm taking you along with me. So, if you are not feeling this style, you can head over to our website at dangertales.com and you can join my newsletter. Or if you are, hey girl, hey, or hey guy, hey, I mean, it could be anyone. You can go to your inbox and search for the newsletter that went out on January 17th, 2026. Y'all, I think that's all of the intros. So let's get into this. So what is this? This is our newsletter. And this week in Danger Tales, we honestly had a very easy breezy week, our weekly sprints, and we are preparing for our upcoming book club discussion, which is next week. Also, our monthly live Q&A is happening this upcoming week. So it means the week before it's pretty chillax. As for me, I am getting it, y'all. This is my power week at the time of this recording, which is really big for my family. And it means that I'm doing a lot of celebrations, hanging out with my family. So technically for me, my new year, as far as a lot of programming and travel and all of that, usually doesn't pick up until after we get through our power week. So it means that technically I feel a little bit like I'm still in holiday mode, but I still have a bunch of meetings. So it's not officially holiday, but it hasn't, like, I am not in full swing. So a lot of any extra time I had this week was in one-on-ones with our inner circle, and honestly just prepping for what's coming ahead. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into this week's newsletter. The subject: how to find the lie your character lives by and why it controls everything. I low-key feel like I talked about this in the last newsletter, but I didn't see it. And so I'm just believing that it happened in one of the discussions with the community. But this newsletter and the next few newsletters are all coming off of a talk that I did. And this talk was all about who hurt you. That's the name of the workshop. And it's all about your character's wound. And so this week is the first of those newsletters, as well as the videos, because y'all, that topic is one of my favorite topics to talk about. And I feel like I keep saying that whenever I do these videos, but it's primarily because, y'all, let me give this a little more light. Let there be light. um, Primarily because I am doing these first videos around things that I really, really enjoy. I enjoy a lot about what I do, but writing and working with characters is a big part of what I love doing. Because it was something that I felt like I struggled with for so long. So I studied it a lot, and I'm always looking for additional inspiration to sort of drill that in even more because it's something that I really enjoy. So, subject: how to find the lie your character lives by and why it controls everything. And the pre-header is the answer is deeper than you think. Here's one question that changes everything. The other thing that I will remind you of is I'm reading and I'm adding in the commentary. So you're going to see me kind of look off. And y'all, it just makes this fun and a little more relaxing, and it also gives me ideas for future things. You can always go to the comments and leave questions, and I will come back also to answer those. So let's get into this. You know what happened to your character, but do you know what really happened to them? Not the sequence of events that but the mark that it left, the one that has been distorting everything ever since. This is one of those things that I always like to give a visual of. If you've ever wore like transitional glasses or glasses with transition lenses, if you have, you know that they're never as clear as when you first get them. The first time that they transition, they never go back to being that clear. And what I like to think about when you think about your character's wound or the lie that they're living by, that they've adopted as their truth, is that they are walking around with these lenses that are not quite clear and they don't know it. Right? You get used to it. If you've ever had transitional lenses, you get used to the fact that they're just not fully clear, but they are distorting your vision. Like they're clearing it up, but they're also distorting your vision, right? So think about that metaphor or in the visual when we talk about the rest of this. And let's continue. There's a way to find it, right? That mark that this occurrence has placed on them. And I like to say that it's placed it on their soul. And it's a lot of, if you're writing romance, it's placed it on their heart. And it becomes almost like the mortar for them building these walls around them. Okay. So there's a way to find it. And I'm going to show you how. So when knowing isn't enough, and when I say knowing isn't enough, I'm saying just knowing your character, knowing the few facts that we can put on a character profile, that's not enough, especially in romance. And this is the part that makes romance so juicy. And it makes us feel like we are being placed square, like smack dab in the middle of their lives. It's because they have layers and they have depth. And it's like that doesn't automatically happen. You have to make that happen. So when knowing isn't enough, but before I can show you how we must agree, even if temporarily, that knowing what happened to your character isn't the same as understanding how they see the world because of it. You can list every traumatic event. You can fill out every character worksheet. You can know their entire backstory by heart. But if you can't explain the behavior in the moment, you're missing something. You're missing the lie. One of the questions that I had when I was doing this talk was, well, what if, what was the, something like, what if I don't know what it is? I think that's what the question was. Or basically, I can't remember it verbatim, but what the person was asking was saying it as if their character wasn't living based upon a lie. And I'm sure there's some stories out there that have it, but in my experience, if your character doesn't have some aspect of them that must change by the end of the story, you don't have a story. Now, listen, there's some genres where there's very little change, but most protagonists change in some way. The degree, and I know I've said that here on this channel before, the degree varies, but there is change. And usually the change is coming about because we are adjusting and helping them to see that that lie is there, that they're wearing, transitional lenses, and beginning to make a change about around that. Okay. I'm sorry. I was really trying to think of what that question was, but it's been a couple of weeks and now my brain is foggy about it. But know that. So let's continue. Let's say you're writing a second chance romance. Your protagonist, let's call her Imani, is a successful event planner coordinating a wedding when her ex fiance, Ethan, shows up. Ethan wants to talk, wants to explain what happened 5 years ago. He's reaching out, putting himself out there, clearly still in love with her. And Imani shuts him down completely. She won't hear him out, won't even let him finish a sentence. But she also doesn't block him. And she keeps rereading his text messages. I like to think of her head, I think of this as her head and her heart are thugging it out, right? Like they're going back and forth. On the page, we see she won't talk to him, but she's also not walking away. And this is important. The between the two is the equivalent of bottling up pixie dust, right? That space between, her not talking to him, but also a part of her almost like yearning to reach out to him, missing what they had, right? It is the magic, right? It's where the magic happens, but only if we can answer this simple question. Why? The 5 whys. It's easy to stop here. If we know why, we could just stop right there and keep it pushing, right? She doesn't want to talk to him because he broke her heart. Point blank, period. I'm done. And you could be done there, right? And you know enough to write, to get the book written, if you know this piece of information. But taking this next step is what separates the novice from the professionals. And quiet as it's kept, it makes writing so much easier. Y'all, you're going to have to do a little extra work, but it's worth it. I promise you. So here's how we get you there. Ask why, then keep asking. Okay. So that is the 5 whys. This is a technique that I've read about over and over again. I believe it started in the in Toyota production line, but that's not why we are using it. We're using it because it helps us to get underneath the surface response, right? She could say, because he broke my heart 5 years ago, I'm done with him, period. But there's usually more to it than that. And I mean, we really do want there to be more to it than that, because then the story would be kind of boring or we wouldn't have a story, right? So back to Imani's example. Why won't Imani let Ethan explain? Well, because every word out of his mouth sounds like a promise she's heard before. This makes me think of the Sunshine Anderson song, like heard it all before, right? She's heard it all before. She ain't trying to hear that. Okay, so let's ask why again. Why do his promises irritate her instead of soothe her? Well, because when men promise her forever, it usually means they're already halfway out the door. Okay, this already reeks of trauma, reeks of a wound, but we keep digging. Why does she believe that's true? Well, because 5 years ago, Ethan told her she was it for him, that he wasn't going anywhere. Then he took a job in Seattle without even telling her he'd applied. She found out from a friend at brunch. Bingo. Oh, so Ethan didn't just mess up. Listen, Imani said, I'm big mad, right? So there was more to it, but we're not done there. Why does the secrecy cut deeper than the job itself? Why does this cut so deep for her? Well, because it meant he was planning his future, which was an exit, while still holding her in the present with pretty words, right? This is how she's looking at his promises. So he wasn't honest. He was managing her, right? He was managing the situation and she was none the wiser. So, why does being managed trigger something primal in her? And I'm saying primal because it's triggering her need to protect herself. It's triggering her need to put distance. It's triggering her need to have boundaries, right? Even though a part of her still yearns to connect with him. And that's because Ethan wasn't the first man to do this. Oh, really? Tell us more. Well, her college boyfriend did the same thing, told her he loved her, talked about moving in after graduation. Then she found out he had already accepted a fellowship across the country he'd known about for months. So this wasn't the first time that this has happened to her. So why does she keep ending up with men who do this? We are getting in there. Y'all, I wonder if when you listen to this and then you go back and read the newsletter, if you hear my voice saying it like this. But why does she keep ending up with men who do this? And this is really important, especially for us who are writing romances, right? That their behaviors and their selection of the men that they date is usually repetitive. It reminds me of y'all love watching reality dating shows. I just love them. I love them, love them. But anyways, how if you watch like the show Love is Blind, and you will hear more than once of people trying to pick something or someone different than what they normally pick. And we at home are always yelling, he's just like the guy you picked last time. And they know it. They know it. When they come out of those pods and they go into the real world, they know it. And they are even sometimes attracted to the type of person, the kind of person, the type of attraction as far as physicality that they normally would go after with someone that's a part of the group of people that were in the program once they see each other. And it's because we usually do the same thing, hoping for a different outcome, our own personal version of insanity, right? So I'm saying all of this to say this is the sort of patterns and rhythms and things that we can think about that helps us to create better characters, right? Me saying that to you, it sounds rambly, but when you think about it, you understand. And now you're looking at Imani or whoever your Imani is, and you're thinking, what happened to you, sis? Like for real, for real. Because that's going to give you what you need and the details and the juiciness that makes your story feel so relatable and lived in, and that captures our attention. So let's continue. Why does she keep ending up with men who do this? Because the first man she ever trusted taught her that love and leaving can live in the same sentence. The first man who taught her that, okay? When she was 12, her father tucked her in at night and promised, no matter what happens with your mom, I'll always be here. But he had already signed a lease in another state. She only found out because she saw the paperwork in his car. Boom. Layers. Life lived. Things that they have to heal from, things that they have to grow from. Again, why I love romance. So, what did that teach her? That a man can hold your face in his hands and still be planning to walk away. That male love can sound loyal and still be temporary. So, what's the lie controlling Imani? But before we go there, if you want help finding the lie in your character story, like for real, on the page, this is exactly what we do inside of Danger Tales Writers. You can learn this on YouTube, but with DTW is where you can apply it to your book with live support, feedback, community, and accountability, plus additional resources if you need to shore up some places inside of your story writing. You'll find the link in the description bar in the description for Danger Tells Writers. And let's go ahead and get back to Imani's story. So, because here's what this taught her. Here's what, heard it all before. Come on, Sunshine Anderson, against the actions of the men in her past. This is what it taught her, and this is what she's carrying with her. Men don't stay, not really. If you let a man close enough to need him, he will leave, and the promises won't protect you. They just make the leaving hurt more. This is the lens that is coloring her entire world. All of her decisions, which we'll talk about in the next installment of this mini series, all of her decisions are colored by this. So there it is. That's the lie coloring Imani's world. That's the lie that planted the seed. And everything that happened after, Ethan, her college boyfriend, every moment she rereads his text messages but won't respond, that's the plant that grew from it. And I like to see this if you look at another visual. It's like when you go back into their sort of history, you're getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until we find the seed that was planted. And then from that seed has grown, right, this tree, these branches, this fruit from that seed. And in your story, it is coming to chop that tree down. That sounds a little bit deadly. I didn't mean that. Right. So let's keep going. Now her behavior makes perfect sense. Why she's not answering him, why she's not listening to him, right? She won't block him because part of her still wants the connection, but she won't engage because the lie says letting him close means getting hurt again. So what this actually is, the lie isn't just interesting character depth. It's architecture. Like I really, as you can see, like we talking about going down and the plank going up, like you are building something here. And if you allow yourself to build something here, whether you do it before you write or in your edits, it makes all of your scenes and all of your chapters make sense. And if it doesn't, you need to go back in. It's what the entire story exists to challenge. This story exists to challenge that lie. Because if Imani believes closeness equals inevitable hurt, then this story, this romance, has to introduce someone or something that makes that belief unsustainable. Not erase it, but to challenge it. Oh, you gotta love it. So that's the work. And an easy way to find it is by asking why 5 times. So we asked why 5 times. Now, we will say that you don't always have to do 5, but 5 is a great way to do it so that you don't get stuck on a surface answer either, right? So this works everywhere, not just in romance. It's for any story where your character makes a choice you can't quite explain. They won't ask for help even when they clearly need it. They push away the one person trying to support them. They keep choosing the path that limits them. You know something is driving this behavior. You just can't name it yet. That's when you ask why. Keep asking until you get to the belief underneath. The thing they've decided is true about themselves, about other people and about how the world works. That is what this uncovers. And that belief, this lie, is what is running everything. And that's why it's so important to take time to do this. I say, like, it's not always easy, but it will pay off in spades in the long run. So, what I want you to sit with, what behavior in your story are you struggling to explain? Not struggling to write, but struggling to make sense of. Like, I feel like the kids, make it make sense. That you're struggling to make it make sense. Okay. What happens if you ask why 5 times? And then whether you decide to write it down on paper, whether you decide to say it audibly, whether you decide to dictate it, I say, do it, do it, do it. I don't need you to have a perfect answer. You don't have to have a perfect answer here. You just need to sit with the question. And whenever I find myself up against this, I'll find that I'll keep asking why, and all sorts of things will start settling into place. And I think sometimes that can be the woo-woo aspect of writing, but it'll start settling into place because I'm starting to understand and I'm starting to pull out aspects of this character that maybe I hadn't quite nailed down. Like, I had it a little bit in some parts of my mind, but now because of me asking these questions, it's requiring it to go like from the back of my mind to the front of my mind and onto the paper. Just sit with the question, because once you find the lie, everything else starts to click. So I'm curious, have you ever found the belief under your character's actions and thought, oh, that's why they keep doing that? Or are you staring at a behavior in your draft right now that you can't fully justify yet? Let us know in the comment section. As always, I read everyone. And there you have it. That is our newsletter for this week. Now, next week, we're going to be talking about the wrong choice and why it's usually the most loyal one your character can make. And I say next week, being that this is video, we understand that you can find this at any time. As this series builds out, I will make sure to update the description box so that you can get to the other videos in this series, because technically I feel like I want to say a mini series, but I don't think that's adequate. So because you know the lie, you can finally see what they are protecting and what it is costing them. So you want to do this first before moving on to the next video. And if you're in DTW, you already got full access to Who Hurt You workshop, and it's waiting for you in the classroom. And I'll make sure to link to it in the description box as well so that you can get to it. If you join DTW, you can access it as well. It is available to members of our community. And with that said, thank you so much for being here. As always, like, you can learn this information here on YouTube, but if you want to apply it to your personal work, you want to get additional assistance, you want us to help you get to the bottom of it and to help it to bring it to the page, essentially, then go ahead and come over and join us at DTW. Thank you for spending so much time with me on this video. I know you have a million things that are pulling at you, so it means a lot that you choose to spend the time here with me, and I will see you all hopefully sooner than later. Take care, and as always, happy writing. Goodbye. I've been down so in love like